Tonight, we head deep into the heart of Texas to a vast ranch where a sharp-witted city lawyer collides with a rugged cowboy foreman. What begins as a battle of wills soon unravels into a story of secrets, starlit skies, and a love neither of them expected. But before that, my name's Murphy, and I'd love to know where you're listening from, and what time of day it is for you. If this bring you calm, don't forget to subscribe. There are so many more peaceful nights ahead. Our story begins with a woman named Isabel Beaumont, though everyone who knows her well calls her Izzy. She's 28 years old, with the kind of sharp intelligence that comes from years of practicing law in busy city offices. Her days have always been filled with the sounds of traffic, the hum of air conditioning, and the constant buzz of phone calls and meetings. Izzy steps off a private jet onto the hot Texas tarmac, and immediately the difference hits her like a warm wave. The air here moves differently than city air. It's thick and sweet, carrying scents of grass and earth, and something wild that she can't quite name. Her designer sunglasses, so perfect for filtering the harsh glare of city windows, seem almost fragile against this vast open sky. The heat rises from the ground in gentle waves, creating a shimmering effect that makes the horizon look like it's dancing. This is her inheritance, though she never expected it. Her father, a man she barely knew, has left her something she never imagined owning. The XXX ranch stretches before her, acres and acres of rolling land that seems to go on forever. Izzy adjusts her tailored jacket and looks around. Everything here is so different from her world of glass buildings and busy sidewalks. The silence is almost overwhelming. Back in the city, there was always noise, always movement. Here, the quiet feels alive, filled with the distant sound of cattle and the whisper of wind through grass. A truck approaches from the direction of the main ranch buildings, kicking up a small trail of dust. The vehicle is clearly well used, with sun-faded paint and the kind of wear that comes from daily work, rather than neglect. When it stops, a man steps out, and Izzy gets her first look at Cade Walker. Cade is 35, with the kind of weathered appearance that comes from years under the Texas sun. His hands are calloused, his jeans are faded, and his boots have seen countless miles of ranch work. He moves with the easy confidence of someone completely comfortable in his environment. When he removes his hat to greet her, his hair shows traces of premature gray at the temples, giving him a distinguished look, despite his casual clothes. His greeting is polite, but reserved. He's the foreman here, the person who has been keeping the ranch running. There's something in his quiet eyes that suggests he's seen a lot, experienced things that have taught him to be careful with trust. He speaks in the unhurried way of someone who has learned that most things worth saying don't need to be rushed. The contrast between them is immediate and striking. Izzy, in her carefully pressed business attire, looks like she belongs in a boardroom. Cade, in his work clothes with dust on his boots, is clearly a man of the land. When they shake hands, she notices how rough his palm feels against her soft skin, and how his handshake is firm, but not aggressive. Cade offers to show her around the property, and they climb into his truck. The vehicle smells like leather and hay, with just a hint of the cologne he must have put on for this meeting. As they drive, Izzy watches the landscape roll by through the window. The ranch is bigger than she ever imagined. Fields stretch in every direction, broken up like clusters of oak trees that provide patches of shade. Cattle move slowly across the pastures, their presence creating a sense of peaceful purpose. Everything here, operates on a different timeline than the city. There's no rush, no hurry, just the steady rhythm of animals and land working together. Cade explains the basics of ranch operations as they drive. He talks about grazing rotations, water sources, and seasonal changes in the work. His voice is calm and steady, and Izzy finds herself relaxing despite her initial nervousness. There's something soothing about the way he describes the land, as if he's talking about an old friend rather than just property. They stop at a hill that overlooks much of the ranch. From here, the view is breathtaking. The land rolls away in gentle waves, dotted with cattle and bordered by distant mountains that look purple in the afternoon light. The sky above is enormous, bigger than any sky Izzy has ever seen in the city. Clouds drift slowly across the blue expanse, casting moving shadows on the ground below. Standing there beside Cade, looking out over this vast expanse, Izzy feels something she hasn't experienced in years. It's a kind of peace, a stillness that seems to settle into her bones. The constant tension she carries from city life begins to ease, just a little. As they continue the tour, the differences in their backgrounds become more apparent. When Cade shows her the cattle operation, Izzy immediately starts asking questions about efficiency and modernization. She wonders why they don't use more technology, why certain processes seem so time-consuming, why everything moves at such a deliberate pace. Her questions aren't meant to be critical, but they come from a world where speed and efficiency are everything. She's used to finding solutions quickly, to cutting through problems with sharp analysis and decisive action. The slow, traditional methods of the ranch seem almost quaint to her trained legal mind. Cade listens patiently to her suggestions. He doesn't get defensive or dismissive, but there's something in his expression that suggests he's heard these kinds of ideas before. He explains that ranching has its own wisdom, developed over generations. Some things can't be rushed. Some processes need time to work properly. There's a moment of tension when Izzy suggests that the ranch could probably run more efficiently with half the current workforce. Cade's jaw tightens slightly, and for the first time, she sees a flash of something harder in his eyes. These aren't just employees to him, he explains quietly. They're people who depend on this work, families who have been connected to this land for years. The exchange makes Izzy pause. She's used to thinking in terms of profit margins and cost efficiency. The human element, while not ignored in her legal practice, is often secondary to the business considerations. Here, she realizes, the human element seems to be primary. As evening approaches, Cade shows her to the guest house where she'll be staying. It's a small, comfortable building, set apart from the main ranch house, surrounded by mature oak trees that provide natural shade and privacy. The porch faces west, offering a perfect view of the sunset. Inside, the guest house is simply but tastefully furnished. The walls are painted in warm earth tones, and the furniture is solid and comfortable rather than stylish. There's a stone fireplace, though the summer heat makes it unnecessary. Large windows let in plenty of natural light and offer views of the surrounding landscape. Izzy sets down her designer luggage and looks around. Everything here is so different from her sleek city apartment with its modern furnishings and technological conveniences. This place feels more authentic somehow, real in a way that her carefully curated urban lifestyle suddenly seems not to be. Cade lingers on the porch for a moment, pointing out practical things like where to find the main house if she needs anything, and when meals are typically served. But there's something else in his manner, a hesitation, that suggests he wants to say more, but isn't sure how to bridge the gap between their very different worlds. As he prepares to leave, they stand together on the porch, watching the sun sink lower towards the horizon. The sky is beginning to show touches of pink and orange, and the air is finally starting to cool from the day's heat. In this moment, with the peaceful evening settling around them, some of the tension from their earlier conversations seems to ease. Izzy wakes to sounds she's never heard before. Instead of car horns and sirens, she hears birds singing in the oak trees outside her window. Instead of the constant hum of city noise, there's a gentle quiet, broken only by the distant lowing of cattle and the soft whisper of wind through leaves. The morning light here is different, too. It streams through her windows in warm, golden rays that seem to have a weight to them, a substance that city light lacks. She lies in bed for a few extra minutes, just listening and watching as the ranch slowly comes to life around her. When she finally gets up and looks out the window, she sees Cade already at work. He's in one of the corrals, moving among the horses with the kind of easy grace that speaks of years of experience. Even from a distance, she can see how the animals respond to him, calm and trusting in his presence. She dresses in the most practical clothes she brought, though even her casual wear looks formal compared to the functional clothing she sees the ranch workers wearing. When she steps outside, the morning air is still cool and fresh, carrying scents of hay and earth and growing things. Cade offers to show her more of the daily operations, and Izzy accepts, curious despite herself about how this place actually functions. They start at the stables, where she meets some of the quarter horses that are used for ranch work. The horses are beautiful animals, well cared for, and clearly comfortable with human handling. Cade introduces her to a gentle mare named Luna, whose coat shines like copper in the morning light. When Izzy tentatively reaches out to touch the horse's neck, she's surprised by the warmth and softness of the animal's fur. Luna seems to sense her nervousness and stands perfectly still, allowing Izzy to get used to the contact. There's something peaceful about the horse's presence, a kind of calm strength that reminds her, unexpectedly, of Cade himself. They watch as the ranch hands prepare for the day's work. Each person has specific responsibilities, and they move through their routines with practiced efficiency. But it's a different kind of efficiency than Izzy is used to in the business world. Here, efficiency comes from understanding and working with natural rhythms rather than trying to force faster results. Cade explains that the work changes with the seasons, with the weather, with the needs of the animals and the land. Some days require intense physical labor, others are quieter, focused on maintenance and planning. The key is being flexible, adapting to what each day requires rather than trying to impose an artificial schedule. Later in the morning, they drive out to check on one of the herds. The cattle are spread across a large pasture, grazing peacefully in the warming sun. They're beautiful animals, Izzy realizes, with their glossy coats and calm demeanor. She had never really thought of cattle as beautiful before, but seeing them here in their natural environment, she begins to understand why Cade speaks of them with such respect. Cade explains how they manage the grazing to keep the land healthy. The cattle are moved regularly from pasture to pasture, allowing the grass to recover and regrow. It's a careful balance between the needs of the animals and the health of the land, requiring constant attention and adjustment. As they sit on a fence rail watching the herd, Izzy notices how Cade observes the animals. His gaze moves systematically from cow to calf, noting their condition, their behavior, any signs that might indicate problems. It's clear that he knows these animals individually, can spot changes in their health or mood that would be invisible to an outsider. There's a moment when a young calf approaches the fence, curious about these humans. Cade speaks softly to the animal, and it comes closer, allowing him to scratch behind its ears. The gentleness of the gesture surprises Izzy. This man, who seems so rugged and weathered, shows such tenderness with the animals in his care. As the day grows warmer, the pace of work adjusts accordingly. The ranch hands take advantage of the cooler morning hours for the most physically demanding tasks, then shift to other activities during the heat of the day. Izzy insists on helping with some of the work, despite Cade's gentle suggestions that she might prefer to observe. She's determined to prove that she can handle ranch life, though she quickly discovers that physical ranch work is very different from the mental challenges of her legal career. Her first task is helping to repair a section of fencing. The work involves digging post holes, setting new posts, and stretching wire. Within an hour, her hands are blistered, her clothes are dusty, and sweat is trickling down her back. The Texas sun is relentless, and she finds herself understanding why the ranch hands start their day so early. But there's something satisfying about the work, too. Unlike the abstract nature of legal problems, fence repair produces immediate, visible results. When a section is completed, it's clearly done, solid and functional. There's no ambiguity, no need for interpretation. The fence either works or it doesn't. Cade works beside her, his movements efficient and practiced. He doesn't say much, but she notices how he subtly adjusts his pace to match hers, how he quietly takes on the more difficult portions of the task. When her hands start to blister, he produces work gloves from his truck without making a big deal of it. Late in the afternoon, they discover a calf that has somehow gotten separated from its mother and tangled in some brush. The young animal is distressed, calling for its mother and struggling against the branches that hold it trapped. Cade approaches slowly, speaking in the same soft, calm voice he used earlier. The calf is frightened, but something in his manner seems to reach it. Gradually the animal stops struggling and allows him to come close enough to carefully free it from the thorns. Izzy watches in fascination as Cade examines the calf for injuries. His large, calloused hands move with surprising delicacy, checking for cuts or scratches. When he finds a small wound on the animal's leg, he cleans it gently with water from his canteen and applies antiseptic from a first aid kit he carries in his truck. Throughout the process, he continues talking softly to the calf, his voice steady and reassuring. The animal seems to understand that he means no harm, standing quietly while he tends to the injury. When he's finished, he gives the calf a gentle pat and points it toward the sound of its mother's calling. The reunion between cow and calf is touching. The mother cow approaches at a run, lowing anxiously, and immediately begins checking her baby over with the thoroughness only a mother can provide. The calf, now free and safe, begins nursing contentedly, while its mother continues to make soft, reassuring sounds. Watching this scene, Izzy feels something shift inside her. There's a gentleness in Cade that she hadn't expected, a tenderness that contrasts sharply with his rugged exterior. The care he shows for the animals in his charge speaks to something deeper than just professional responsibility. That evening, as they sit on the guest house porch watching the sunset, their conversation takes on a more personal tone. The day's shared work has broken down some of the barriers between them. creating a foundation for deeper communication. Cade asks about her life in the city, and Izzy finds herself describing not just her career, but the loneliness that sometimes comes with urban success. The long hours, the competitive environment, the difficulty of forming genuine connections when everyone is focused on getting ahead. In return, Cade talks about his life on the ranch. He grew up on land like this, learned to ride before he could properly walk, understood the rhythms of ranch life from childhood, but he also speaks of the isolation that can come with rural living, especially for someone in a position of responsibility like his. As the sky deepens from gold to pink to purple, they discover unexpected common ground. Both of them understand what it means to be dedicated to work that demands everything. Both have experienced the loneliness that can come with leadership positions. Both have learned to find satisfaction in excellence, even when that excellence goes unrecognized by others. There's a comfortable silence as full darkness settles around them. The stars here are brighter than any Izzy has ever seen, spread across the sky in brilliant profusion. The Milky Way is clearly visible, a river of light flowing across the heavens. Sitting there beside Cade, looking up at that incredible sky, Izzy feels something she hasn't experienced in years. It's a sense of peace, of being exactly where she belongs at exactly the right moment. The feeling surprises her with its intensity. As the days pass, Izzy finds herself falling into the rhythm of ranch life more easily than she expected. She rises earlier each morning, dresses in clothes that are becoming increasingly practical, and joins Cade for the day's work with growing confidence. Their initial awkwardness has evolved into a comfortable working partnership. She learns to anticipate his needs during various tasks, handing him tools before he asks for them, positioning herself where she can be most helpful. He, in turn, begins to trust her capabilities, giving her more complex assignments and relying on her judgment in small but significant ways. The physical demands of ranch work are changing her body. Her soft lawyer hands are developing calluses. Her pale city skin is taking on a light tan, despite her careful use of sunscreen. Her posture is changing too, becoming more relaxed and natural as she spends her days moving through open spaces rather than sitting hunched over legal documents. More importantly, the work is changing her mind. The constant mental chatter that characterized her city life is beginning to quiet. The need to always be thinking 3 steps ahead, always planning and strategizing, is giving way to a more present-focused awareness. She finds herself noticing things she would have missed before, the way morning light falls across a pasture, the sound cattle make when they're content, the feeling of accomplishment that comes from completing physical tasks. Izzy's initial questions about ranch efficiency have evolved into genuine curiosity about the complexities of land management. She begins to understand that what looked like simple, traditional methods are actually sophisticated systems developed over generations of experience. Cade's approach to managing the cattle, for instance, involves a deep understanding of animal behavior, grass growth patterns, weather cycles, and land health. The timing of when to move herds from pasture to pasture requires knowledge that no business school could teach, wisdom that comes only from years of careful observation and gradual learning. She watches him work with growing admiration. His decisions are never rushed, but they're decisive when they need to be. He can look at a pasture and know immediately whether the grass is ready to support grazing. He can assess an animal's health from subtle changes in posture or behavior that would be invisible to untrained eyes. The ranch hands clearly respect him, but it's not the kind of respect that comes from fear or hierarchy. It's the deeper respect earned by someone who knows his work thoroughly and cares genuinely about both the animals and the people under his supervision. When problems arise, they come to him naturally, confident that he'll know how to handle the situation. The attraction between them grows gradually, like the slow warming of earth under spring sun. It starts with small moments, a lingering glance when she hands him a tool, the way he steadies her elbow when she climbs over a fence, the comfortable silences they share during long truck rides across the ranch. There's nothing hurried or desperate about it. Instead, it feels as natural and inevitable as the changing of seasons. Each day brings small discoveries about each other, tiny moments of connection that build into something larger. Izzy finds herself noticing details about Cade that have nothing to do with work. The way his eyes crinkle slightly when he's amused by something, the gentle way he handles his horse, the careful consideration he gives to every decision, no matter how small, the quiet strength that seems to radiate from him even when he's completely relaxed. Cade, meanwhile, is clearly intrigued by her combination of intelligence and determination. He seems to enjoy her questions, even when they challenge established ways of doing things. He appreciates her willingness to work hard, despite her obvious unfamiliarity with physical labor. Most of all, he seems drawn to her genuine interest in understanding, rather than simply judging. One afternoon, while they're working on maintaining water troughs in a distant pasture, dark clouds begin building on the horizon. The air becomes still and heavy, charged with the electricity of an approaching thunderstorm. Cade looks up at the sky with the practiced eye of someone who has learned to read weather patterns. The storm is moving fast, he explains, and they need to seek shelter quickly. Texas thunderstorms can be violent, with dangerous lightning and flash flooding. They gather their tools hastily and head for the truck, but it's clear they won't make it back to the ranch buildings before the storm hits. Instead, Cade drives to an old barn that sits on a small rise about a mile from where they were working. The building is weathered but solid, used for storing hay and providing emergency shelter for both animals and humans. Just as they reach the barn, the first fat raindrops begin to fall. By the time they get the truck parked and themselves inside, the rain has become a downpour. Lightning flashes across the sky, followed by deep rolls of thunder that seem to shake the earth. Inside the barn, the air is warm and dry, filled with the sweet scent of stored hay. The building is larger than it appeared from outside, with a high roof and sturdy walls that have withstood many such storms. Shafts of grey light filter through gaps between the boards, creating an intimate, sheltered atmosphere. They settle on some hay bales to wait out the storm, and for the first time since she arrived at the ranch, Izzy and Cade have extended time together with no work to focus on. The conversation that develops is deeper and more personal than any they've shared before. Cade talks about his childhood on a similar ranch, about learning the work from his father and grandfather. He describes the satisfaction of carrying on family traditions, but also the loneliness of a life that doesn't leave much room for close relationships. Most women, he explains quietly, aren't interested in the isolation and hard work that come with ranch life. Izzy shares her own story, the drive to succeed that led her into law, the satisfaction of winning difficult cases, the gradual realization that professional achievement wasn't filling the emptiness she felt in her personal life, She talks about relationships that failed because her career always came first, about the increasing sense that something important was missing from her carefully planned life. The storm continues around them, creating a cozy sense of being cut off from the outside world. In this temporary shelter, with rain drumming on the roof and lightning illuminating the landscape outside, they begin to truly see each other for the first time. As they talk, Izzy becomes aware of Cade in a new way. The storm has created an intimacy that their usual work environment doesn't allow. Here, sitting close together on the hay bales, she notices the warmth of his presence, the steady strength in his voice, the way his eyes seem to reflect the flickering light from outside. When a particularly loud clap of thunder makes her jump slightly, Cade's hand reaches out instinctively to steady her. The touch is brief and innocent, but it sends an unexpected warmth through her that has nothing to do with the temperature in the barn. The moment stretches between them, charged with possibility. For a heartbeat, she thinks he might lean closer, might close the distance between them. But then another flash of lightning illuminates the barn, and the spell is gently broken. Instead of pulling away entirely, though, Cade lets his hand rest lightly on her shoulder, a gesture of comfort and protection that feels entirely natural. They sit like that for a while, listening to the storm, each acutely aware of the other's presence. As they wait for the storm to pass, Izzy begins to notice something unusual about Cade's interaction with the few barn cats that have appeared seeking shelter from the rain. The animals approach him with unusual trust, seeming almost drawn to his presence in a way that goes beyond normal human-animal affinity. One of the cats, a small tabby that looks like it might be injured, comes directly to Cade and settles in his lap. As he strokes the animal gently, Izzy could swear she sees something different. A subtle glow, perhaps, or maybe just a trick of the storm light filtering through the barn walls. The cat purrs deeply and seems to relax completely under his touch. When Cade finally sets it aside, the animal moves more easily than it had when it first approached, as if whatever had been bothering it has improved. Izzy tells herself it's just her imagination, influenced by the dramatic atmosphere of the storm and their intimate conversation. But she files the observation away in her mind, along with other small things she's noticed about Cade's unusual rapport with the ranch animals. The storm gradually passes, leaving behind the fresh, clean scent of rain-washed air and the peaceful feeling that comes after nature has released its power. As they prepare to leave the barn and return to the ranch, Izzy realizes that something has changed between them during these quiet hours together. That night, Izzy finds herself unable to sleep. The storm has passed, leaving behind crystal-clear air and a sky full of brilliant stars. She sits on her porch, wrapped in a light blanket, listening to the peaceful sounds of the ranch, settling into evening quiet. The conversation in the barn keeps replaying in her mind, along with the strange moment she thought she saw something unusual about Cade's interaction with the injured cat. She tells herself it was just the dramatic lighting and her own overwrought imagination. But the memory persists. Unable to settle, she decides to take a walk around the ranch buildings. The night air is cool and fresh after the afternoon's rain, and walking helps calm the restless energy she feels. The main house is dark, as are the bunkhouses where the ranch hands sleep. Only a few security lights cast pools of gentle illumination across the yard. As she walks, she becomes aware of a light coming from one of the barns. It's not the harsh glare of electric lighting. but something softer, warmer. Curious, she moves closer to investigate. Approaching the barn quietly, Izzy peers through a gap in the door and sees Cade inside, working by the light of a couple of lanterns. He's kneeling beside a horse that's lying on its side in one of the stalls, clearly in distress. The animal's breathing is labored, and even from her limited vantage point, she can see that something is seriously wrong. But what captures her attention isn't the horse's condition. It's what's happening as Cade works with the animal. His hands are resting gently on the horse's neck and side, and there's definitely something unusual about the contact. A subtle glow seems to emanate from his touch, so faint that she has to strain to be sure she's really seeing it. The horse, which had been restless and obviously uncomfortable, begins to relax under Cade's ministrations. Its breathing becomes steadier, less labored. The tension in its body gradually eases, and its eyes, which had been wide with pain, begin to close peacefully. Izzy watches in fascination and disbelief. What she's seeing seems impossible, yet it's happening right in front of her. The glow from Cade's hands is definitely real, not a trick of the lamp light. And the horse's improvement is dramatic and immediate in a way that suggests something far beyond normal veterinary care. Unable to contain her curiosity any longer, Izzy pushes open the barn door and steps inside. The sound startles Cade, who immediately pulls his hands away from the horse and turns toward her with an expression of shock and something that might be fear. The moment his hands lose contact with the animal, the subtle glow disappears. But the horse's improved condition remains obvious. It's breathing normally now, and when it raises its head to look at them, its eyes are clear and alert instead of clouded with pain. For a long moment, they stare at each other across the barn. Cade's expression is guarded, almost defensive, while Izzy struggles to process what she's just witnessed. The rational part of her mind insists that there must be a logical explanation, but the evidence of her own eyes is undeniable. Finally, she finds her voice. She asks him directly what she just saw, what he was doing to help the horse. Her tone is quiet but persistent, making it clear that she won't be satisfied with evasions or simple explanations. Cade's initial response is to deny that anything unusual happened. He suggests that she might have misinterpreted what she saw, that the lighting was deceptive, that the horse's recovery was simply the result of conventional treatment he'd given earlier. But Izzy's legal training has taught her to recognize when someone is avoiding the truth. She presses gently but firmly, describing exactly what she observed and making it clear that she knows there was something extraordinary about his interaction with the animal. Faced with her persistent questioning and obvious sincerity, Cade finally realizes that denying what happened is pointless. With great reluctance, he begins to explain what she witnessed. The ability, he tells her, runs in his family. It's not something he fully understands himself, just something he's always been able to do. When he touches injured or sick animals, he can somehow channel healing energy through his hands. The effect isn't magical in the sense of instant, miraculous cures, but it does accelerate natural healing processes and ease pain. He's never talked about this gift with anyone outside his immediate family. His grandfather had it, and his father, and now him. They've always been careful to keep it secret, understanding instinctively that most people wouldn't understand or accept such an ability. As he talks, his hands unconsciously move back toward the horse, which has now risen to its feet and is standing comfortably in the stall. When his fingers make contact with the animal's neck, that subtle glow returns, and the horse leans into his touch with obvious contentment. Watching this demonstration, Izzy feels a mixture of awe and confusion. Everything she knows about the world tells her that what she's seeing is impossible. Yet the evidence is right there in front of her, undeniable and beautiful. Instead of reacting with fear or disbelief, Izzy finds herself fascinated by this revelation. Her scientific mind wants to understand how such a thing is possible, while her emotional side is moved by the gentleness and healing that Cade brings to the animals in his care. She asks careful questions about the extent of his abilities, how long he's had them, whether he's ever tried to understand the mechanism behind them. Cade answers honestly, explaining that the gift seems to work only with animals, that it requires direct physical contact, and that it's more effective with some conditions than others. He's never sought to study or quantify the ability, he explains. It's simply been a part of his life, something he's used quietly to help the animals he cares for. The secrecy isn't born from shame, but from practicality. He knows most people would either dismiss him as delusional or treat him like some kind of curiosity. As they talk, the horse continues to show signs of improvement. What had clearly been a serious condition requiring emergency intervention is now manageable, the animal comfortable and alert. The transformation is remarkable, and Izzy finds herself believing not just in what she's seen, but in the profound goodness of this man, who uses such a gift purely to ease suffering. This revelation creates a new level of intimacy between them. By sharing his most closely guarded secret, Cade has made himself vulnerable to her in a way that goes far beyond their earlier conversations. The trust implicit in this disclosure touches something deep in Izzy's heart. She understands now why he seemed so naturally connected to the ranch animals, why they responded to him with such unusual calm and affection. She realizes that many of the small moments she'd noticed animals seeking him out, their unusual tranquility in his presence, their remarkable health under his care, all make sense in light of this gift. More than that, she begins to understand the loneliness he must feel carrying such a secret. The isolation that comes not just from the demands of ranch life, but from possessing an ability that can't be shared with others, that must be hidden and protected. Standing there in the quiet barn, with the healed horse nuzzling gently at Cade's shoulder, Izzy feels the last barriers between them beginning to dissolve. This isn't just attraction anymore, or even the deeper affection that had been growing between them. This is the recognition of something profound and rare, a connection that goes beyond the ordinary boundaries of human relationships. As the night deepens around them, they continue talking softly in the barn. Cade shares stories of other animals he's helped over the years, times when his gift made the difference between life and death, recovery and prolonged suffering. His voice carries both pride and humility. He's grateful for the ability to help, but he's never seen it as making him special or superior. Izzy listens with growing admiration and something deeper, a recognition that she's in the presence of someone truly extraordinary. Not because of the supernatural ability he possesses, but because of how he's chosen to use it. The quiet dedication, the selfless service, the careful protection of something that could easily be exploited or sensationalized. When she reaches out to touch the horse herself, Cade guides her hand gently to a spot on the animal's neck. Under his guidance, she can almost feel something, a warmth, a subtle energy that seems to flow between human and animal. It's not the same as what he can do, but it's a sharing of the experience, an inclusion in something magical. The horse responds to her touch with the same gentle acceptance it shows Cade, and for a moment she feels connected not just to this one animal, but to something larger, the web of life and healing that Cade has been quietly tending all his life. As they finally prepare to leave the barn, both of them understand that everything has changed between them. The careful distance they'd maintained, the professional boundaries they'd established, all of that has been swept away by this revelation and the trust it represents. Walking back towards the guest house under the star-filled sky, they move closer together than they ever have before. Not touching, not yet, but with an awareness of each other that's electric in its intensity. The secret shared between them creates an intimacy that feels both thrilling and profoundly right. The next morning brings a subtle shift in the atmosphere between them. When Izzy meets Cade for their usual start to the day's work, there's a new quality to their interactions. The easy camaraderie they'd developed is still there, but underneath it runs a current of deeper awareness. They speak of practical things which pastures need checking, repairs that require attention, the weather forecast for the coming days. But their eyes meet more often than before, holding contact a moment longer than necessary. When he hands her tools or helps her over fences, the casual touches seem to linger. The secret they now share creates an unspoken bond between them. Izzy finds herself watching Cade with new understanding when he works with the animals. Every gentle interaction, every moment of unusual calm that his presence brings to the livestock, takes on deeper meaning now that she knows about his gift. During their morning rounds, they come across a young calf that's showing signs of distress. Without hesitation, Cade approaches the animal, and Izzy watches as he places his hands on its side. The subtle glow she witnessed the night before appears again, and gradually the calf's breathing becomes easier, its posture more relaxed. This time, there's no need for secrecy or explanation. Izzy simply observes with quiet appreciation, understanding that she's witnessing something both rare and beautiful. The trust Cade has placed in her by sharing this part of himself feels precious, something to be protected and honored. As the Texas sun climbs higher, the temperature rises accordingly. They work steadily through the morning, but by midday the heat becomes almost overwhelming. The air shimmers with rising thermals, and even the cattle seek shade under the scattered oak trees. They take shelter in another of the ranch's outbuildings, this one used for equipment storage. The interior is cooler than the blazing outdoors, but the air is still warm and close. They sit on overturned buckets, sharing water from Cade's thermos, and waiting for the worst heat of the day to pass. The intimacy of the small space, combined with the languid effects of the heat, creates an atmosphere charged with unspoken tension. Izzy becomes acutely aware of everything about Cade, the way his shirt clings to his chest, damp with honest sweat, the strong lines of his forearms where he's rolled up his sleeves, the steady rhythm of his breathing in the quiet space. When he offers her the water thermos, their fingers brush as she takes it. The contact sends a spark of electricity up her arm that has nothing to do with the heat. She sees something flicker in his eyes, a recognition of the same awareness that's been building in her. The heat and closeness of the shed create a sense of being suspended outside normal time. In this intimate space, their conversation turns more personal than ever before. Cade talks about the loneliness of keeping such a significant part of himself secret, about relationships that couldn't survive the barriers that secrecy created. Izzy shares her own struggles with intimacy, about how her driven career had left little room for genuine emotional connections. She describes the gradual realization that professional success wasn't enough to fill the emptiness in her personal life, the growing sense that she was missing something essential. As they talk, the space between them seems to shrink. They're sitting closer now, close enough that she can see the flecks of green in his brown eyes, close enough to notice the way his gaze occasionally drops to her lips before returning to meet her eyes. The air in the shed is thick and warm, heavy with the scent of hay and leather, and the subtle masculine smell that she's come to associate with Cade. Everything about the moment feels heightened, intense, in a way that makes her heart beat faster. The tension that has been building between them for days finally reaches its breaking point. What starts as a simple disagreement about ranch management becomes something much more charged, much more personal. Izzy suggests a change to the feeding schedule that she believes would be more efficient. Cade explains patiently why the current system works better for the animal's natural rhythms, but the conversation escalates, not because either of them is really upset about feeding schedules, but because they're both struggling with feelings they can no longer ignore. Their voices rise slightly, though even in disagreement there's an underlying respect between them. They stand now, facing each other in the close confines of the shed, both breathing harder than the mild argument warrants. Suddenly Cade steps closer, close enough that she has to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. His voice drops to barely above a whisper as he tells her that she doesn't understand everything about this place yet, about the way things work here, about the deeper connections that can't be quantified or efficiently managed. Izzy's response is equally quiet, equally intense. She tells him that she understands more than he thinks, that she sees the magic in what he does, that she recognizes the beauty in the life he's built here. But she also challenges him, asking if he's willing to let someone else truly into that life, or if he's too afraid of being hurt to take that risk. The moment stretches between them, filled with everything they've been unable to say. Then, as if drawn by a force neither can resist, Cade's hand comes up to cup her face, his thumb tracing gently along her cheekbone. Time seems to slow as he leans down, giving her every opportunity to pull away if she wants to. But Izzy doesn't want to pull away. Instead, she rises slightly on her toes, meeting him halfway in a kiss that feels like the most natural thing in the world. The kiss is gentle at first, tentative, as if they're both testing the reality of this moment they've been building toward. But as they respond to each other, it deepens, becoming more passionate, more certain. When they finally break apart, both are breathing hard, and the air between them feels electric. Cade's forehead rests against hers, and she can see wonder in his eyes, as if he can't quite believe this is happening. The heat of the day outside seems insignificant compared to the warmth spreading through her at his touch. Every nerve ending feels alive, aware of his closeness, his strength, the gentle way his hands frame her face. What follows is a gradual surrender to feelings they've both been fighting. In the privacy of the shed, with the Texas heat creating a cocoon around them, they finally allow themselves to acknowledge the depth of their attraction. Their kisses become more passionate, more urgent. Cade's hands tangle in her hair, while hers explore the solid warmth of his chest through his work shirt. Every touch seems to generate more heat, more need. until they're both lost in the intensity of their connection. The wooden wall of the shed is solid against Izzy's back as Cade presses closer, his mouth finding the sensitive spot where her neck meets her shoulder. The sensation sends shivers through her despite the heat, and she hears herself make a soft sound of pleasure that seems to encourage him. His touch is reverent, almost worshipful, as if he can't quite believe she's real, she's here. She's responding to him with equal passion. When his lips return to hers, the kiss is deeper than before, filled with all the longing they've been suppressing. Time loses meaning in that small, heated space. They explore this new dimension of their relationship with growing confidence and desire, each touch and kiss building the fire between them higher. As their passion intensifies, they become aware of wanting more than stolen moments in equipment sheds. The physical attraction that has been building between them demands more complete expression, more intimate connection. With unspoken agreement, they gather themselves together and leave the shed, the afternoon heat outside feeling cool by comparison to the fire they've ignited between them. The walk back to the guest house feels both endless and instantaneous, charged with anticipation and the promise of privacy. Every step heightens their awareness of each other. Cade's hand finds hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. The simple contact sends waves of warmth up her arm and straight to her heart. At the guest house, they pause on the porch, both understanding that crossing this threshold will change everything between them. But the hesitation lasts only a moment before desire overcomes uncertainty, and they step together into the cool, private space. Inside the guest house, with curtains drawn against the afternoon sun, they finally allow themselves complete freedom to explore their feelings. What happens between them is tender and passionate, a perfect expression of the connection that has been growing between them. Cade's touch is gentle but confident as he helps her out of her work clothes, his eyes drinking in every inch of skin he reveals. His hands shake slightly with emotion, and she realizes that this moment means as much to him as it does to her. When she begins unbuttoning his shirt, he captures her hands gently, holding them still while he looks into her eyes. The question there is unspoken, but clear, and her answer is equally wordless, but unmistakable. Their coming together is like a dance they've always known, natural and perfect, despite being their first time together. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered endearment builds the intensity between them until they're both lost in sensation and emotion. In the quiet afternoon light filtering through the curtains, they move together with increasing passion and intimacy. The connection between them feels deeper than physical desire, rooted in genuine affection and understanding that makes every caress more meaningful. When they finally reach the peak of their passion together, it's with a sense of rightness that goes beyond physical satisfaction. Afterward, lying entwined in the peaceful quiet, both understand that something profound has shifted between them. In the gentle aftermath of their lovemaking, they lie peacefully together, skin touching skin, hearts gradually returning to normal rhythm. The air conditioning hums softly, creating a cocoon of coolness around their heated bodies. Cade's arm tightens around her, and she nestles closer to his warmth. His hand traces gentle patterns on her bare shoulder, touches that soothe rather than inflame, though the potential for renewed passion simmers just beneath the surface. They talk softly in the drowsy peace that follows great intimacy. Cade tells her how long he's been attracted to her, how he's struggled with wanting someone who he was sure would eventually leave for her city life. Izzy shares her own surprise at how quickly and completely she's fallen for him, how right this feels despite being so different from anything she's experienced before. The conversation drifts and flows, punctuated by gentle kisses and soft touches. They discover more about each other in these quiet moments than in all their previous conversations. Favorite memories, childhood dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. As the afternoon light shifts and changes, painting new patterns on the walls, they make love again, slower this time, more exploratory, learning each other's responses and preferences with patient thoroughness. When evening approaches, they reluctantly acknowledge that the outside world still exists. But as they dress and prepare to return to ranch responsibilities, both understand that everything has changed between them. The careful distance they once maintained is gone, replaced by an intimacy that colors every interaction. Simple gestures, him helping her with her boots, her straightening his collar, carry new weight and meaning. Walking back to the ranch buildings together, they move with the comfortable closeness of established lovers. Not displaying their new relationship obviously, but unable to hide the subtle changes in how they relate to each other. The evening chores pass in a haze of shared glances and accidental touches that linger longer than necessary. Even the ranch hands seem to notice that something has shifted, though they're too polite to comment directly. The next few days pass in a blur of happiness and discovery. Izzy wakes each morning with a sense of anticipation and joy that she's never experienced before. The ranch, which had initially seemed so foreign and challenging, now feels like home in ways her city apartment never did. Working alongside Cade takes on new dimensions now that they're lovers as well as partners. The casual touches that were once electric with unexpressed desire are now comfortable expressions of established intimacy. A hand on her back as he helps her over a fence, fingers brushing as he hands her tools, the warmth of his shoulder when they sit together reviewing ranch business. All of these contacts feel natural and right. Their nights together are filled with passion and tenderness. In the privacy of the guest house, they explore every aspect of their physical connection, while also deepening their emotional bond. Cade's gift seems to extend to their intimate moments too. His touch brings not just pleasure, but a deep sense of peace and rightness that she's never experienced with anyone else. But as the initial glow of new love settles into something deeper and more complex, practical questions begin to intrude on their happiness. Izzy's leave of absence from her law firm has a definite end date. Decisions will need to be made about her future, about their future together. One morning, Izzy receives a phone call that brings the outside world crashing back into their peaceful bubble. Her law firm wants her to return early to handle a high-profile case that could make her career. The senior partner makes it clear that this is exactly the kind of opportunity she's worked years to earn. After hanging up, she sits on her porch for a long time, staring out at the ranch lands that have become so precious to her. The life she's built here with Cade feels real and meaningful in ways her career never has. But the practical side of her mind reminds her of the financial security and professional recognition that her law practice provides. When Cade finds her there, lost in thought, he doesn't need to ask what's troubling her. He's known this moment would come, has been dreading it even as their love deepened. They sit together in silence for a while, both understanding the magnitude of the decision she faces. The conversation that follows is difficult and honest. Cade makes it clear that he won't ask her to give up her career for him, just as she makes it clear that she won't ask him to leave the ranch for her. The life he's built here, the responsibilities he carries, the animals that depend on his gift, all of these tie him to this place as surely as her professional obligations tie her to the city. As the days pass, the weight of her impending decision begins to affect their relationship. Izzy finds herself torn between two competing visions of her future, unable to find a path that honors both her professional achievements and her growing love for Cade and the ranch life they've built together. Cade, meanwhile, struggles with his own fears. He's fallen completely in love with her, but he's also convinced that eventually she'll realize what she's giving up by staying with him. The loneliness and isolation of ranch life, the lack of intellectual stimulation, the absence of the career advancement she's worked so hard to achieve, all of these seem inevitable sources of future regret. Their lovemaking during this period takes on a desperate quality, as if they're both trying to memorize each sensation, each moment of closeness, against the possibility of future separation. The passion is still there, perhaps more intense than ever, but it's shadowed by uncertainty. The ranch hands begin to notice the tension between them, though they are too discreet to comment. The easy partnership that had developed is strained now, complicated by unspoken fears and unanswered questions about the future. The pressure from her law firm increases as the days pass. Phone calls become more frequent and more insistent. The case they want her to handle is exactly the kind of high-stakes litigation that has always excited her professional instincts. Her rational mind tells her that turning down this opportunity could effectively end her chances for partnership. At the same time, her life on the ranch continues to deepen and enrich her in ways she never expected. She's become genuinely skilled at many of the daily tasks, and the ranch hands have begun to accept her as more than just a temporary visitor. The rhythm of the work, the connection to the land and animals, the simple satisfaction of physical labor, all of these have become important parts of who she is. Cade watches her struggle with growing pain. He loves her enough to want her to be happy, even if that happiness lies in a world he can't share. But he also can't help hoping that she'll choose him. Choose this life they've built together, even though he knows how much that choice would cost her. One evening, as they sit together on the porch watching the sunset, he tells her quietly that he'll support whatever decision she makes. His voice is steady, but she can see the fear in his eyes, the same fear that's been growing in her own heart. That night, unable to sleep, Izzy walks out into the ranch lands under the star-filled sky. The peace and beauty of the landscape, the sense of being part of something larger and more permanent than her individual ambitions, helps clarify her swirling thoughts. She thinks about what truly makes her happy, what gives her life meaning and purpose. The high-stakes cases that once thrilled her now seem less important than the simple satisfaction of helping an injured animal heal, less meaningful than the deep love she shares with Cade. But she also acknowledges the fear that's been driving much of her uncertainty. The fear that choosing love over career advancement makes her weak, that depending on a relationship for happiness is somehow a betrayal of her independence and strength. Standing there under the vast Texas sky, she begins to understand that these fears are based on old assumptions about what strength and success really mean. Perhaps the greatest courage lies not in climbing the corporate ladder, but in choosing the life that truly fulfills her, even if it doesn't match society's expectations. When she returns to the guest house, she finds Cade waiting for her, unable to sleep either. They don't need words to understand each other's state of mind. Instead, they come together with a tenderness and passion that speaks directly to their heart's deepest needs. Their lovemaking that night is different from all their previous encounters. It's infused with a desperation and intensity that comes from the possibility of loss, but also with a deeper love and commitment than either has ever experienced before. In the aftermath, lying close together in the darkness, they finally speak honestly about their fears and hopes. Cade admits that he's terrified of losing her, but equally terrified of asking her to sacrifice her career. Izzy confesses that she's already made her choice, that the only thing that scares her more than giving up her law practice is the possibility of losing him. The conversation continues through the night, sometimes with words, sometimes with touches and kisses that communicate more than language ever could. By dawn, they've reached an understanding that transcends their earlier fears and doubts. When morning comes, Izzy knows with complete certainty what she needs to do. The choice that had seemed so difficult and complex now feels clear and inevitable. Her heart has been telling her the answer for weeks. She's finally ready to listen to it. She calls her law firm first thing in the morning, before she can second-guess herself or be swayed by practical concerns. The conversation is difficult, particularly when her senior partner tries to convince her that she's making a career-ending mistake. But Izzy remains firm in her decision, polite but immovable. When she hangs up, she feels not regret, but relief. A weight she didn't realize she'd been carrying lifts from her shoulders. The life she's choosing may be less predictable than her legal career, but it's infinitely more fulfilling. Cade finds her afterward, sitting peacefully on her porch with a cup of coffee and a sense of contentment he's never seen in her before. He doesn't need to ask what decision she's made. He can see it in her relaxed posture, in the way she smiles when she sees him approaching. Their embrace is long and heartfelt, filled with relief and joy, and the deep satisfaction of having chosen love over fear. They stand together on the porch, looking out over the ranch lands that represent their shared future, and both understand that they have found something rare and precious. The days that follow are filled with practical discussions about how to blend their lives permanently. Izzy's legal background, it turns out, could be extremely valuable for ranch operations. There are always contracts to review, land use issues to navigate, regulatory compliance matters to handle. They begin to envision a future where her professional skills complement rather than compete with the ranch life they both love. She could establish a small practice focusing on agricultural law, serving the needs of ranchers throughout the region while remaining based at XXX Ranch. More importantly, they discover that their different backgrounds and perspectives make them stronger partners in every aspect of ranch management. Her analytical approach balances his intuitive understanding of the land and animals. Her organizational skills complement his hands-on expertise. The ranch hands notice the change in atmosphere immediately. The tension and uncertainty that had clouded recent weeks disappears, replaced by the comfortable partnership and obvious affection that makes working with them pleasant for everyone. As word of their relationship spreads through the local community, Izzy discovers that acceptance comes more easily than she'd expected. Rural communities value commitment and hard work above appearances, and her dedication to learning ranch life has been noticed and appreciated. The local women, initially curious about the city lawyer who inherited the XXX ranch, gradually welcome her into their informal networks. She finds herself invited to community events, asked for legal advice on small matters, included in the social fabric of rural life in ways that surprise and delight her. Cade, meanwhile, seems to relax in ways she's never seen before. The burden of loneliness he's carried for so long gradually lifts as he realizes that he no longer has to face the future alone. Having someone who knows and accepts all aspects of his life, including his unusual gift, brings him a peace he'd almost forgotten was possible. Their evening conversations on the porch take on a different quality now that they're planning a shared future, rather than trying to navigate the complications of separate lives. They talk about improvements they want to make to the ranch, trips they'd like to take together, the possibility of eventually expanding their family. As the weeks pass, Izzy's transformation from city lawyer to ranch partner becomes complete. Her hands, once soft from office work, develop the calluses that come from physical labor. Her body grows stronger and more confident from the daily demands of ranch life. More importantly, her spirit settles into the rhythms of rural living in ways that surprise her with their rightness. The constant pressure and competition of city life seems like a distant memory, replaced by the satisfaction of work that directly serves the land and animals in their care. Her relationship with Cade deepens beyond romance into true partnership. They work together seamlessly now, anticipating each other's needs, supporting each other's decisions, functioning as a team in both professional and personal matters. The ranch itself seems to benefit from their partnership. Animals that have always been healthy under Cade's care seem to thrive even more with two people devoted to their welfare. The land, well tended for generations, responds to their combined attention with increased productivity and beauty. One evening, as they work together in the barn tending to a mare who's about to foal, Izzy experiences Cade's gift more directly than ever before. He guides her hands to the right position, and for a moment she feels connected to the same healing energy that flows through him. The mare, who had been restless and uncomfortable, relaxes under their combined touch. When her foal is finally born, it's strong and healthy, already trying to stand within minutes of birth. The experience of participating, even indirectly, in Cade's healing work creates a bond between them that goes beyond the physical or emotional. These moments of shared magic become more frequent as their relationship deepens. Whether they're working with sick cattle, soothing injured horses, or simply maintaining the daily routines of ranch life, Izzy finds herself increasingly connected to the subtle energies that Cade has always been able to access. The gift doesn't transfer to her directly, but her presence seems to amplify and focus his abilities. Together, they form a healing team, more effective than either could be alone, bringing comfort and health to the animals in their care. 6 months after her arrival at the XXX ranch, Izzy can barely remember the woman who stepped off that private jet in her designer suit and city shoes. That woman seems like a character from someone else's story, someone she knew briefly, but never really understood. The woman she's become is stronger in every way that matters. Her body is lean and capable from ranch work. Her mind is clearer, freed from the constant stress and competition of corporate law. Most importantly, Her heart is fuller than she ever imagined possible, overflowing with love for Cade and for the life they've built together. Their daily routines have become natural and comfortable. They rise before dawn, work together through the morning hours, take shelter during the heat of midday, and return to work as the afternoon begins to cool. Evenings are spent on the porch, talking quietly or simply enjoying each other's company under the vast Texas sky. The passion between them remains as strong as ever, but it's now grounded in deep friendship and genuine partnership. They've learned each other's rhythms and preferences, developed the kind of comfortable intimacy that comes only from complete trust and acceptance. As the seasons change, Izzy experiences the full cycle of ranch life for the first time. Spring brings the excitement of new births, calves and foals that fill the pastures with energy and promise. She assists with births now, her hands as steady and sure as any veteran ranch hand. Summer tests everyone with its heat and demands, but she's learned to work with the weather rather than against it. The early mornings and late evenings become precious for their coolness and beauty, while the midday hours offer opportunities for quieter tasks and intimate conversations. Fall brings the satisfaction of successful breeding programs and healthy herds prepared for winter. The work of preparing for colder months creates a sense of security and accomplishment that her legal victories never provided. Winter, when it finally arrives, brings its own pleasures. Shorter days mean more time for indoor activities, for reading together by the fireplace, for long conversations that deepen their understanding of each other. The ranch work continues, but at a gentler pace, allowing time for reflection and planning. Izzy's legal practice, now focused on agricultural law, has grown steadily. Word of mouth brings her clients from throughout the region, ranchers and farmers who appreciate working with someone who understands their way of life from personal experience. The work is different from her previous corporate practice, but no less intellectually challenging. Land use disputes, water rights negotiations, environmental compliance issues, all of these require the same analytical skills she developed in the city, but applied to problems that directly affect the community she's come to love. More importantly, her legal work now feels meaningful in ways her corporate practice never did. She's helping people protect their livelihoods and preserve ways of life that have been part of Texas culture for generations. Cade supports her practice in practical ways, helping her understand the intricacies of ranch operations that inform her legal advice. Their different areas of expertise complement each other perfectly, creating a partnership that benefits both their personal relationship and their professional effectiveness. Cade's gift continues to amaze and humble her. She's witnessed dozens of healings now, from minor injuries to serious illnesses that would normally require extensive veterinary intervention. The animals seem to sense something special about him, seeking him out when they're in distress, relaxing completely under his touch. Her role in these healings has evolved from observer to assistant. She can't channel the same energy he does, but she's learned to support and amplify his work in subtle but important ways. Her presence calms both animals and handler, creating conditions that allow his gift to work most effectively. They've talked about the responsibility that comes with such abilities, the ethical questions raised by possessing healing powers. Cade has always used his gift purely to reduce suffering, never for personal gain or recognition. Izzy supports this approach, understanding that the gift's power lies partly in its humility. Together, They've helped animals throughout the region, always quietly, always without seeking credit. The network of ranchers and farmers who know about Cade's abilities is small and discreet, bound by unspoken agreements to protect something precious and rare. On quiet evenings, when the day's work is done and they sit together on their porch, Izzy often marvels at the contentment she's found. The restless ambition that once drove her has been replaced by a deeper satisfaction, rooted in meaningful work and genuine love. She thinks sometimes about her former colleagues, still climbing the corporate ladder, still measuring success in billable hours and partnership tracks. She feels no superiority towards them, just gratitude that she found the courage to choose a different path. The ranch has taught her about different kinds of success, the satisfaction of a job well done, the joy of working in partnership with someone you love, the peace that comes from living in harmony with natural rhythms. These lessons have value that no amount of money could purchase. Her relationship with Cade continues to deepen and strengthen. They've learned to work through disagreements with respect and patience, to support each other during difficult times, to celebrate small victories together. The foundation they've built seems strong enough to last a lifetime. Their conversations increasingly turn towards the future they're building together. They talk about improvements they want to make to the ranch, technologies that might help without disrupting the traditional methods that work so well. The possibility of marriage comes up naturally in these discussions, not as a dramatic proposal, but as a gradual recognition of commitment already made. They're already partners in every way that matters. Legal recognition of their union seems like a natural next step. They discuss children with growing excitement. Cade wonders if his gift might be hereditary, while Izzy dreams of raising children who understand both the value of education and the satisfaction of physical work. The thought of little ones running through the ranch grounds, learning to ride and care for animals, fills both their hearts with joy. The guest house has become too small for their shared life, and they're planning additions that will make it truly their home. A larger kitchen for entertaining the friends they're making in the community, a study where Izzy can work on legal cases, space for the family they hope to have. Some evenings, as they walk hand in hand across the ranch lands, Izzy feels struck by the perfection of their life together. Not perfection in the sense of having no challenges or difficulties, but perfection in the sense of being exactly where she belongs, with exactly the right person. The Texas sky stretches endlessly above them, painted in colors that change with each passing moment. The land around them pulses with quiet life, cattle and horses moving peacefully through their evening routines. The man beside her radiates the same quiet strength and gentle wisdom that first attracted her to him. These are the moments she treasures most, when the beauty of their surroundings matches the beauty of their love, when the peace of the ranch settles into her bones like a blessing. She understands now why people speak of finding their home in another person. Cade has become her true north, the fixed point around which everything else in her life revolves. In return, she sees that she's brought something equally valuable to his life. The loneliness that once shadowed him has been replaced by the joy of having someone who truly knows and accepts him. The burden of keeping his gift secret has been eased by having a partner who not only understands, but actively supports his healing work. On a particularly beautiful evening in late spring, as they stand together overlooking the ranch from their favorite hill, Cade takes her hands in his and speaks the words they've both been feeling for months. He tells her that he loves her more than he ever thought possible, that she's brought light and joy into corners of his life that had been dark for too long. He promises to care for her, to support her dreams, to share with her all the magic and beauty of the life they're building together. Izzy's response comes from the deepest part of her heart. She promises to love him with everything she has, to be his partner in all things, to help him carry the responsibilities and joys of the ranch that has become their shared sanctuary, drop to their contentment. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities to work together and grow in their love. The cattle will need tending, the horses will require care, and there will likely be legal matters for Izzy to handle. But tonight, all of that can wait. Tonight, they have each other, and the quiet satisfaction of a day's work well done, and the promise of many more such days ahead. They have found something rare and precious, not just love, but the right love, the kind that enhances rather than diminishes each person's individual gifts. The XXX Ranch, which had once seemed like a burden inherited from a father she barely knew, has become the foundation of a life more fulfilling than anything Izzy ever imagined. The Texas soil beneath their feet holds the roots of their shared future, and the endless sky above promises room for all their dreams to grow. As they settle into each other's arms in the darkness of their bedroom, both understand that they've found their forever. Not in grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but in the quiet accumulation of shared moments, mutual respect, and love that grows stronger with each passing day. The stars that shine so brilliantly over the Texas ranch lands have witnessed the birth of a love story as enduring as the land itself, as magical as the gift that first brought them together, and as infinite as the sky that stretches above them into eternity. The end. If you are still awake, try our other movie story videos. Subscribe if you liked the video. Thanks.